funny, it's people that live in Moree see it differently, but Moree's always that place that people say it's so divided that the community doesn't work together.
Yeah.
But then you to go there and for a year and feel at home shows a whole different view of that community.
Well, I guess it's also the different reasons, like I pointed, so much personal growth and development and learning who I was as a person. But like you said, there's many challenges up there in working and trying to make a difference. And by no means am I blaming one organisation, which why I left, for that. But yeah, it's a difficult community to work in terms of the community service sector. And I know that from personal experience, and I know that from hearing stories of people who still live there, and the social media statuses that you read about services and whatever, and family members that still live there that describe access to services being really difficult. So but it was a blessing in disguise. So excuse me, I returned to Sydney, and I move in with Annie Linda, Bernie, Sarah's mum, at Campsie, and I applied for this job on Seek, and it just said, do you have experience with child protection, young people and education? And I did. So I applied, and it ended up being agency work through for the child wellbeing unit in education. So I went. It was really weird, the interview, but in hindsight it shows how busy they were and how busy the job is. Because I turned up to the interview and they sort of forgot about me for 40 minutes because an emergency was taking place or something that needed their urgent attention. So when they eventually came through and sat me down, the interview lasted no longer than 20 minutes, and it was 5 questions, and I went bang, 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 walked out, and I thought, okay, well, on to the next one. The agency called me and she goes, how did you go? And I said, I don't know. I said, they forgot about me, there was issues with the interview, it went really quick. I said, I don't know, I think we're just gonna have to keep looking. And she goes, really? Because they want you to start tomorrow. And I was like, wow, okay. So that's where I then spent the last 6 years of my life. And I just went from a contractor to then I got a full-time position as an Aboriginal assessment officer. So about the role and what the unit is, I was a child wellbeing unit for education. So in 2010, I believe it was, the Department of Communities and Justice identified that there was an over-reporting of child protection issues that weren't child protection issues or didn't meet the threshold of an immediate risk of harm. And they identified that police, health and education made up majority of those over-reporting or under-reporting, but they determined that there would be funding to set up child wellbeing units, which would be child protection experts within these settings that would take down the information and report it through to the helpline if required. It's grown and evolved even in the 6 years that I was there, from what it initially started, but I was able and fortunate enough to work in many different positions, from assessment officer to the field assessment officer, to helping be a part of discussions of creating an Aboriginal team and then seeing that through to fruition. And becoming the first my boss Martha, who had been there before I got there, an Aboriginal woman. I'm very proud of it. Had sort of paved the way for me. She sort of walked so I could run, really. But had done it in non-identified roles. So I was the first to hold that Aboriginal Field Assessment Officer role, and then eventually where I left, ended my time there as the Aboriginal manager of Maramarri Barala, which is Gomeroi my language, which I gave the title of the team.
Yep.
So it means in Gomeroi to heal many.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's correct pronunciation,
Yep.
but of reading it and the pronunciation of other words, that's how I assume it is.
Yeah.
It's read, but it's more so the meaning behind it, and it's something that I'm very proud of because it's something that's never going to be removed.
Yep.
Or it's etched in history.
Yep.
So a part of my legacy lives on, even though I've moved on from
Yep.
that position and that organisation. So,
Yeah.
but it gets to that the timeline of I guess losing everything.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for the support I was provided during the last 8. Since my dad passed away, my work has been very supportive, and that relationship between myself and my manager and the CEO, we're very close. And I think in some aspects, maybe upon reflection, maybe sometimes the relationship sort of blurred boundaries.
Yeah.
And was my expectation of the relationship that we had, I guess, changed when I went back. So around 90 weeks ago, I only know around 90 weeks because I went on work cover for stress leave or cultural burnout.
Yep.
Excuse me, because I identified that there was a lack of cultural support being provided. Excuse me, but that's not to any one individual within the unit or the department's fault. We just know that
it's a systematic
thing. But it's also that we don't have the practitioners available, to be able to provide. So what it is supervision.
Yep.
So supervision is normally in a clinical setting where, as a clinician, or you are provided a space or a set time to debrief around certain aspects of your work or a specific client, but it's with an external party in a controlled environment with a trained professional. And I expressed the need for it to be done by an Aboriginal person for our Aboriginal unit, because not only were we doing extra work on top of, excuse me, I've got an itchy throat. So as an Aboriginal assessment officer, you're tasked with the roles and responsibilities of an assessment officer, but you also provide cultural consultations. And it was just extra work on top of your normal workload. That's one part of it. The other part of it is, as an Aboriginal person, you don't turn that switch off if you work in the child protection space.
24/7.
It's 24/7, because you walk out that door and you walk back into your own community and you see the same issues that you're reading or hearing about occurring in front of you, you know? So you never turn it off. No. And for me, it was like a double extra layer because I have my own experience.
Yes.
But I don't, and I honestly believe this, that the exposure to the child protection material during that time of my life, in losing my dad and, the grief and loss and my mental health deteriorating, it was never a contributing factor to my breakdown. So if anything, it sort of made me more passionate and made me want to know that this is what I needed to be doing, so
probably going to be purpose as well.
Well, yeah, and this is the point that I was going to get to around. So, in so the last 18 months, along the timeline. So my carer passes away.
Yep.
Now I'll put my hand up and say that, you know, in the last year of her life, I could have been there more often.
Yep.
You know, at the house, and I could have spent more time providing care and being around there. Because she was in hospital, and then the decision was made to take her back to the family home.
Yep.
In Punchbowl, and then her older son became her primary carer.
Yep.
Yeah, so I admit that, you know, I could have been there a lot more than I was.
Yep.
But I did show up on the times when I was called.
Yeah.
You know, and they need to, I guess, also understand and see from my point of view that I had just lost my dad. I was not afforded the opportunity to grieve and mourn his loss, because then I was then put straight into another stage or level of grief and loss in watching her pass away.
Yep.
And then when she did pass away, I was a bit more vocal around my childhood experiences.
Yeah.
But in reflection, in the times that I spent and visited the home in that final year, I could feel that I wasn't wanted there.
Yep.
I could feel that the love that her son was trying to pass off or pretend to give to me was forced.
Yep.
And now I understand that on a far deeper level too, because, and I think this is one of my toxic traits is, and I was talking to friends about it a couple of weeks ago, and sort of, I don't know if it's already a coined term, but discussing toxic empathy.
Yeah.
And being too empathetic in situations of and trying to understand other people's behaviours and making, or sort of giving them the right to be like that.
Yes.
You know, and treat you like that, or
give them more
specific
behaviour.
Yeah. So I really understand some of the feelings that he may feel towards me.
Yep.
And I know that they stem from childhood.
Yep.
Because I was 9 months old, so this would have been 1990.
Yep.
Or early 1991, when a 9-month-old child has come into his life. His mother was a single mother. Yep. And my needs, immediate care needs, were greater than his, who was an older child.
Yeah.
So the love, affection, care and attention that he required was taken away from him.
Yep.
By me.
Yep.
And I understand that. So I understand where some level of hate, jealousy, resentment, that he may feel towards me. And I've honestly felt it my entire life.
Yeah.
You know, there'd been discussions where we were together in describing, I used to call her mum.
Yep.
And it's only recently, since her passing, that I stopped calling her mum.
Yep.
And whenever I would say our mum or describe mum as me and him both belonging to her, he would always point out it was his mother.
Yep.
And I remember one specific incident. We were on, it was his partner or the mother of his children's, I think it was her 40th birthday, and he started at a pub somewhere out west and then caught a party bus into the city. And we come along the M5, and just before the Riverwood Punchbowl exit is Bell Street overpass. Yep. And it lines up directly, if you're travelling towards the city, if you were to walk across the overpass and down Bell Street, the back of our house, or where we grew up. So we pointed that out to the driver, and we said, oh yeah, I said, our mum lives down there, and he made the point to point out that it was his mother. not mine.
Yep.
So I've always had that feeling in knowing that I didn't belong there,
Yeah.
you know, and I think it became a bit more evident once her grandchildren were born.
Yeah.
Because the level of supervision and support and love and affection and all those things that you are required to give to a child or a young person that you take care, like guardianship over, wasn't there.
Yep.
Because the abuse that I suffered or endured wouldn't have happened if the supervision was in place.
Yep.
Because but another aspect of it, I guess, I think is, so in the 2000s, it's definitely the year 2000, I'm pretty sure. It could have possibly been 99. She has a stroke whilst we're up visiting her mother in New Farm in Brisbane.
Yep.
So every Easter school holidays, we would always get the XBT up to Brisbane to visit her mother, Nana Peggy, she suffers a stroke, a very severe stroke. She's completely paralysed on the left side of her body.
Yep.
She remains in hospital for several months to recover and rehabilitate the body.
Yep.
So at this stage, so if we're thinking, if it is around the 2000 mark, I know her date of birth was the 5th of the 8th, 45. So that ages her at 55 years old at that point. That ages me at 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I had her foster brother, who was the same age as me, Stephen. And he came into the house when we were 5, I think, and lived with us. Like, he's my brother, I call him. Like, we grew up together and lived in that house until we both moved out. Him at around 15 or 16. Me, I stayed around until around early 20s. So, so in my case notes, that medical episode isn't written. So I don't know if DCJ were aware of it. And if they were, why aren't there case notes on it? Because why wasn't a safety assessment conducted on the household? Why didn't the school report that I hadn't been at school for 9 months? Because I stayed in Brisbane with her nephew and his wife, and they would go to work. Their kids would go to school. I'd be dropped to the hospital to roam around while she's in bed, recovering from this injury as a 10-year-old. And then after the hospitalisation, the decision was made to fly her back to Sydney, and I remember it distinctly because it was the first time I'd ever been on a plane. So we flew home, and the recovery process happened for her. And I'm not taking away from the fact that that's a huge incident that has occurred in her life, her son's life as well. Could be labelled a near-death experience, but from a DCJ perspective, and for 2 kids that were in her care at the time, a 55-year-old woman suffers a brain aneurysm or a significant brain injury. So her quality of living in life has exponentially dropped. But she's meant to be caring for 2 10-year-olds. Where's our quality of life, or the question of who's going to care and to provide the level of needs that we require? They're not going to be met by this woman at this age who just suffered this. So that responsibility was then placed onto her son and our older foster brother. Why wasn't a safety assessment conducted then? Because there was rampant drug and alcohol use, like I mentioned, and horrific domestic violence, and exposure to, pornographic material. There was exposure to, horrific, like dead bodies and dismembered body parts and stuff like that, because they were young adults, high or drunk, who thought it was funny to watch the reaction of a child looking at something so horrific. But if you don't understand the consequences or the damage that you're doing to a young person's brain at that age by exposure to that type of material, you really don't understand how traumatizing that is.
And the long-term effects.
Yes, that's right. So I feel that DCJ failed there in not doing a safety assessment on the house because our needs weren't met. Which leads me up until, I guess, sort of now, and my decision to move to Melbourne. It came after, so recently, as I said, I took stress leave and I'd been on it for quite a number of weeks. I attempted to go back to work at the end of last year. I rushed it and it just didn't work. It is a very fast-paced, hectic, stressful environment to try and just limp your way back in. That's not going to happen. And me being me, in wanting to do everything all at once and achieve greatness and whatever, it just didn't work that time. So then this year, so I'll go on holidays again over Christmas and New Year's. I come back sitting around and I actually come home early to help celebrate a friend's birthday. I also attend a concert, or 2 concerts, and a birthday over the span of 3 weeks. My mental health wasn't great. It was probably almost ready to hit rock bottom. And it did. Over the course of those 3 weeks, the alcohol and drugs that I consumed and the amount of money that I'd spent by returning, it could only end in 2 ways. You know, and it did end in me wanting to end my life. I was under the influence, suicidality and the thoughts of wanting to die, they never leave my brain. They're always there. It's the question of self-worth and stuff like that. I've done a lot of work on silencing that inner critic and putting those voices to bed, but the drug and alcohol use, just that what was happening in my life, I'd lost everything. And it was the complete breaking of me. So I was on my way home in Glebe, or to where I was staying rather, and I just didn't want to be there here anymore. And I made the courageous decision to call 000. And I had I don't know who and I never will, but the 000 caller, God save her, she saved my life. I could have ended it right there. She'd get me on the phone and get talking to me about what was happening and waited until the ambulance got there. And when they got there, the call terminated, and then my experience over the next sort of 72 hours was horrific, man. But rocking up to a hospital, intoxicated, wanting to die, and then sat in the emergency room where 3 years earlier I had to identify my father's dead body. So I spent roughly just over 24 hours, I guess, or almost 24 hours in RPA's emergency room, right? The shit that I seen and heard, was horrific. Slept on the chairs there, woke up, and then they said, they had a bed for me across the road in their sort of emergency department. So Marine Shoot. So on their first level, I guess if you're suffering a psychotic episode or your risk of immediate harm to yourself or others is high, you go straight there. But I was not at that risk. The risk of harm was, I guess, assessed at a lot lower level.
Yep.
I eventually made my way across to there, and then a day later I was up on the ward.
Yep.
Now, it was during my stay on the ward, so when Annie Mavis was murdered,
Yep.
That was like the camel on the straw's back, or whatever you want to say, around losing too many people in such a short period of time that meant so much to me and to the people around me.
Yep.
Especially, and to see them hurt in the way that I couldn't do anything to help them.
Yeah.
It was really difficult. So during that time, I'd actually been pulled over twice, and the thing with marijuana use is you can't tell when it's out of your system.
Yeah.
So you may use today and then drive on Monday, and you could still fail a drug and alcohol random breath test on the side of the road. So I actually, in the span of 4 days, got pulled over twice. Once was a car full of the boys out front of Tribal Warrior. Got made an example out of in front of everybody, right? It was shameful, but a lesson learned, you know. So I had 2 pending court cases around. So I'll point out there that the charge that was put forward towards me on both occasions was driving with an illicit substance in your system. So that being of marijuana.
Yep.
That was medically prescribed.
Yep.
I had during COVID reached out to a doctor around treatment of insomnia.
Yep.
Although, you know, looking back, I can say that I was abusing the substance, you know. But if I was driving or knew that I had to drive, I wouldn't smoke high.
Yes.
You know, so, or under the influence, which is evident in the fact, that when I was pulled over, I wasn't charged with anything other than it was still in your system.
Yeah.
So it happened months before, but then it just so happened to be that one at the front of Tribal Warrior, and the second occurred driving home from Wello.
Yep.
And so the first court case that was going to be presented was at Wello, and it was the second week that I was in hospital.
Yeah.
So I panicked, and I realised that I wasn't going to be there. I needed to ring the local ALS to see if I could have someone represent me and say, this is the current circumstances, can we adjourn it?
Yeah.
But I also wanted it moved down here to Sydney because I had 2 of the same offences, both first time. I've never had a criminal record. If they could be seen together, because if one goes, like if I'm convicted, then it would appear that I already have a conviction of the same thing.
So
harsher penalties and whatever, disqualification periods and stuff like that. So I ring Dubbo ALS, and for those who remember my Facebook statuses at the time, was not provided the level of service that I think I deserved and was warranted as a client ringing for support. From the moment I rang, and the person on the other end of the line, attitude, delivery, and commentary, I guess. And now I'll be the first to say that I have been that person. You can ask my boss because the child wellbeing unit is a call center environment. That when I first started, my ability to communicate and express passion or have my needs met or requirements met, there's a nuance to it when you're on the phone. Because you can't tell body language or anything else.
Exactly.
It's all through your voice and your tone of voice. and I've been pulled up a few times because of the way that I handle myself. So I learnt to be able to communicate and articulate my needs very well.
Yep.
And I think people are threatened by that.
Yep.
When somebody stands up for themselves and I'm able to articulate it in quite a educated manner. Yep. Because I have done, put in time and effort to study. Yep. And work in the field. So I do know what it's like to be a worker and I do know my rights.
Yeah.
The short of it is the original receptionist hangs up on me. I ring back and another person answers the phone with, "What do you want?" Not with a, "Hi, this is ALS service, how can I help you?" So they obviously had screened my number. Yeah. That had appeared on the phone. And I said, I'd like to start with just gaining your name first and foremost, so I know who I'm talking to. They provided me their name, and then I asked for the name of the person who I spoke to previously. And he said, "That's against the law, and I won't be doing that." And I said, "Well, first of all, mate, you work in a legal service, so if you want clarification, pop your head around the corner and ask maybe the lawyer, because I know for a fact that as a civil servant or a public servant, your right to keep your name private doesn't exist, because as a consumer or a client using your service or product, if I experience a negative experience, which I did, I have every right to ring and make a complaint about the service and the individual that I met. So how am I meant to identify who that person is if you don't give me your name?" Yeah. So then I end up getting the name. Oh no, he still was, I got his name, he wasn't forthcoming in giving up her name. Yep. And anyway, I then make a formal complaint. So I wrote a letter of complaint to the board of the state. Yep. Legal service. And then by the end of, because what had happened was, so that was Monday. So I let them know that I was in hospital, I wasn't going to make it. Could you please send someone to let them know and answer it in German? Yep. So Tuesday comes, that's court day in Willow. Wednesday, for some reason, I was trying to think about it last night, but I think it's because I was selling my car around the same time that I went onto the Service New South Wales app, and my license wasn't coming up, and I was like, "What? Like, it should be there." Yeah. And it said sometimes in cases of disqualification, your license will not appear. Yeah. So a conviction was handed down in court the day earlier. So I rang the legal service to see what had happened. And the person said that I was convicted, I was fined, and a disqualification period was handed out. I said, "How is that possible when I rang on Monday and informed you that I was in hospital? I'm still in hospital. Yeah. I can forward you the admission papers for evidence to provide to the judge." I said that there has been a gross failure in communication of my situation on your part, and you need to fix this, because I don't feel like that should have been the right outcome, and I wasn't even given a fair chance because I wasn't able to represent myself or even be there. Yeah. So next thing I know, I have the big boss of ALS on the phone. Yeah. Who is ringing to sort of try and work out what happened. But I'd already made the complaint to the board, so obviously there was a microscope put over them. But that relit the fire underneath my ass to say, you can't give up. Like I said, I might sound conceited, but I know that I've been put on this earth to make change and to lift up the voices of others who aren't often heard. Yep. I'm also to make the change within the out-of-home care system to stop and prevent harm to children that is currently occurring, or preventing it from happening in the future because of my own experience. So that passion and drive was relit because of the failure in those people to do that. Yeah. I discharged on the Saturday from Maria Bashir. I worked really hard with my therapists and doctors at the time. Yep. to get my ass back to work, because I knew routine was essential to healing and to getting back to where I had deemed success or normal life. So I worked really hard to get back there, and I did put in the effort, and I really slowed down and stretched out the timeline of going back, because I couldn't just rush back into my position. A lot of things had changed, new processes had come into place, and I needed to be reintegrated back into the work in general, because I hadn't worked. So in that time, I guess that was going to the point in returning, I guess my individual needs, because of the work that I had done in not being at work and was forced to do in terms of grieving and loss and everything that I went through, the complete breakdown of my whole life and losing everything, in rebuilding myself and refinding that passion and drive to want to make change, they didn't align with the workplace anymore that I was working in. So I made the decision to quit or resign, based off of that, but also the fact that it was a contracted position, even though it was full time. But it was ending on June 30, so I would have had to reapply for the position. Given that I hadn't sat in it for the last year, the person who was relieving would be more competitive, I felt, in being the preferred candidate. And I understand that. I had no issues with that being the case. And I hope and wish them nothing but great success. But I knew that my time there had ended. And to touch quickly back on that relationship thing around boundaries being crossed, I think my expectation going back in with the relationship with these women, who were members of my team but also my bosses, I just felt like I was looking for them to be more family friend rather than my boss and bosses or colleagues. And that's on my part. I feel like that was my expectation. So like I really love those women because they did provide, like I said, a lot of love and support and understanding in losing my dad, my carer, and then the breakdown of my relationship, which was all known to my managers. So I think, you know, when I am 100% me in everything that I do, and I always give my heart. I'm not afraid to cry or show emotion or vulnerability, because I've learnt in breaking, you know, this is the break that was visible to the world. I've broken down 1 million times before this and started again or rebuilt or thought that this was the end and there was no way out, you know. But I know that, you know, there's all these different quotes going around that I've been reading and hearing and stuff like that. But Big Cash, you know, quite popular on social media. You know, he was talking about social media, and you know, I started a new Instagram and then deactivated Facebook, and then I was activating and reactivating, and I have this weird relationship with social media. And it comes from and relates to heavily what he says. You know, everything on social media is 95% of it is fake and bullshit, like people's personas, and they'll only, what you see is what they're giving you, right? And you just believe that everything you see on there is real, and this expectation of life is like here. Like, I think the whole idea of gender reveal parties came from social media, you know, and trying to one up or outdo each other, you know. So, but I also understand the power in social media in giving voice to people who don't have voices. You know, we spoke earlier about the media and the control that they have over the narrative that is delivered. So social media could give me a platform to be able to share my story, because I know there's others out there that have experienced what I've experienced or are currently experiencing what I experienced, and I want to be able to at least alter or make a positive change to someone's life.
Yeah.
And that what Big Cash said was like everything is fake is online, but and it's so much more energetically draining to create a false persona.
Yeah.
You know, like to be fake, the time and energy it takes to create a lie and sustain that lie.
Yeah.
And I know because I had to wear so many different masks and lie about situations that there is so much power that I can take back in speaking my truth and being unapologetically and unauthentically who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And in healing and on this journey that I'm a part on, because I know that healing is not a destination. It's not, I'm going to get over this or I will be healed from this.
No.
Like any trauma, whether it's physical or mental, it leaves a scar and you will never function the same way again. You'll never regain the full use and ability that you once had because you'll always have that scar there that is a reminder of what you went through. And I think in owning those scars and showing them off in a way that allows me to be authentically me and saying this is what I went through and this is why I do the work that I do.
Yep.
Like, and I can do it being wholeheartedly just me.
Yeah.
Especially in child protection, because a lot of the trauma or the negative experiences that I've gone through are because of I feel, the negligence of the services that were meant to protect me.
Yeah.
So, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it did make sense, bro.
You know, like, yeah, so, yeah, fast forward to now. So that lit the fire under my belly. And then the other part of the decision to leave Sydney and move to Melbourne was I had a negative experience with a local service.
Yep.
I'll name them, the AMS.
Yep.
In which I was ringing because, so when I was in the Philippines, I came home early. I'll just touch on the Philippines quickly too, actually, because part of healing I've understood, part of me understands in healing a lot of the trauma that I've experienced goes to, I think I've broken it down. So when I get, when I'm triggered or an emotional response is detected in my body,
yep.
I know that it comes from two places. One, my boundaries are being crossed.
Yep. So
someone has disrespected me, or my sense of injustice has been triggered. So
yep.
Is someone doing the wrong thing by somebody else?
Yeah.
And I've witnessed it, so I will stand up for them.
Yep.
Or two, it comes from grief.
Yeah.
And when I speak about grief, I speak about it in a number of ways. One, it starts from the very beginning, from when I was removed.
Yep.
I grieve the life that I could have lived.
Yep.
Had I been not removed.
Yep.
I grieve the life that I could have lived if restoration was ever put on the table.
Yeah.
Which through my case notes was never.
Yep.
I miss, I grieve those missed opportunities, that all the dreams and aspirations I had as a kid that were never nurtured or taken care of or shown any interest in by my care or the people around me. Like just examples, like as a kid, like I was very, talking about myself again, very talented sport, athletically wise.
Yeah.
Like I could play any sport and be quite good at it. But that talent was never fostered or nurtured.
No.
I remember playing football up until I was probably 10, and then just was never taken back to the club for training. Like my carer didn't have a car or a driver's license, but there were other ways for means to be met, you know. I was very fast. I was a fast runner. That's why I was at Endeavour. I was a specialty in the 100 and 200 metres.
Yep.
We won't talk about the swimming incident for those listening. Bundy and Mark, they're not allowed to speak at my funeral, alright? You've heard it here now because it's the only yarn that they would talk about. But I also loved music and dance and singing and acting. That's why I always knew I was different. Like there's videos of me when I was younger and of me dancing and singing. Like if you didn't know I was budgie or queer back then, like you're kidding yourself. But you know, like I remember like music. I love music, bro. Like every aspect of it. And it's a form of art and the appreciation and understanding of what art is and how it can be interpreted. And I think it's a very trusting process to be an artist and to release music or whatever your expression of art is. But in terms of healing, music and movement and the understanding of the power that it has in healing. But I remember having like, you know how there's memes that go around now of people having showers and performing world tours of like Beyonce melodies or whatever. That was full on me. Like I remember I had Whitney Houston's greatest hits. It was a double-sided CD or double-sided CD pack. One side was red and one side was blue. One had all the ballads and one had all the party tracks. And I'd take the Sony boombox into the bathroom, put the CD on, press play, and I would, you know, sing at the top of my lungs. But so I was obviously passionate about music and performing. But I remember going to one dance class, and that was it. And if you know the means and resources, you can't argue that that was an issue because being a ward of the state, all you had to do was ask the caseworker or case manager, and it would have been paid for. You know, so I grieve the opportunities of the what ifs. You know, what if I was a really good football player? You know, could have made NRL, or what if I was a really good dancer and could have been in the Australian Ballet or Bangara or all these other opportunities. I often find there's grief in that. And then there's the grief and loss of physical beings and people. But I have a weird relationship with death because I know it's inevitable and it's always going to occur. So losing someone physically is really hard. I know that, but my relationship with death and understanding is a lot different, so I process it a lot differently. Then there's the grief and loss of my relationship. And that one person that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And then knowing that I played a part in that downfall because of my mental health. You know, I'm stuck ruminating on those, on that grief at the moment. That's something that I'm struggling with at the moment. So I'm trying to work on that. And then that's the grief broken down. So the people, and then the possibilities and what ifs. And then also again the person and then the what ifs that were attached to that. So at the come home. So part for me healing is going back and trying or giving it a go at all the dreams and aspirations I had as a kid. So the most public one that I posted recently was the trip to the Philippines, in which I wanted to learn to surf. Because I grew up in, went to school in the Shire and I always wanted to do it, but was never given the opportunity. So that was really big and really powerful in doing so, and doing those lessons, and then standing up and riding the waves, and the poetry in all of it, being out in the water in the ocean and how healing that is. But I know that for me to heal, I'm going back and sitting with that little boy and holding his hand and taking him through life with me now, and making sure that because I have the access to resources and the means, that I'll he'll get to live out his dreams.
Yeah.
You know, and like I'm going to the point where I'm, who knows, I might pick up a singing lesson or, you know, go and do a improv class.
Yep.
Or something like that, because I also read and have read, you know, The Body Keeps the Score.
Yep.
But also other reading materials around how trauma is stored in the body.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting study around how untapped creativity or artistic expression, if it isn't given an outlet and it's suppressed within you,
yep,
it shows up later in life,
yep,
in ways of trauma.
Yeah.
So I know how healing, you know, wanting to sing or dance or stuff is going to be both as getting the needs met of that little boy or a younger Terence,
yep,
but also the science behind it as well, the supporting evidence.
No, I think
with it.
that's exactly right, Brian. As you say, healing is, it's a lot more than just one thing. There's so many aspects.
Yeah, and it's
to healing,
and it's ongoing. It's not you're going to be healed and that's
no,
it.
No.
But like, so what I was getting to was that move to Melbourne. So,
yep,
I had an incident. So I came back from the Philippines, and the filling in my tooth had fallen out. So I rang the AMS to see if I could get in for an emergency filling or
yep,
get a referral or whatever. Get put through the dental reception. They claim that I haven't been to the service since 2020. Now, as we have just had a conversation about work cover,
yeah,
and stress leave, part of my requirements is to go to a doctor every month, and my
yep,
doctor is at the AMS. And at some points in the last 3 years, I was going there fortnightly.
yep,
And I'd actually been to the AMS the Monday before. This is the call was made on the Wednesday, and in relation to work cover. So I said to the person, I said, no, I actually was here on Monday, so your system is wrong.
yep,
And then they looked for another excuse to deny me access,
yep,
which was I haven't completed a 715 health check,
yep,
which is also incorrect because I have a mental health care plan. And part of that required, or there was discussion around nutritionists, and I have ongoing gastroenterologist appointments. Yep. So you need 715s to be able to access those
yep,
parts of the AMS. But instead of resolving my issue, he just transferred me back to reception in medical. Excuse me. So what's happened there? My needs haven't been met, and injustice.
yeah,
So I've been triggered. So I've asked to speak to a manager. I haven't been rude, disrespectful. I haven't raised my voice. I haven't done anything.
yeah,
So I get put on hold. I get transferred, and then finally someone answers. I'm just going to start the conversation with letting you know that we don't tolerate disrespect, violence in any way, shape or form. So when they finished speaking, they said, thanks for that, but I haven't done that in any way, shape or form, and I don't intend on doing that.
yeah,
And also, who am I speaking with? Because when I answer a phone call, I tend to start with, hello, my name is so-and-so, how can I help you?
yeah,
And given by your tone, and then that person snapped back and was like, who am I speaking with? So I said my name, and then when I said my name, it was like the person realised who I was.
yeah,
So their tone and delivery of service changed. So I was told that a doctor would call for a immediate referral down to the emergency department of the dental hospital, because there was an Aboriginal youth down there. So my tooth was going to get fixed. I said, and in terms of the complaint around the receptionist's behaviour, that person said, yep, go onto the website and you can lodge it on there. And I said, perfect, there's a digital copy, there'll be evidence, it'll be dated, everything will be on there. I think that person didn't realise that I'd also be making a complaint about the way how they started the phone call. Because that same person emailed me back to respond to say that we've received your complaint and we're going to follow the process. In the complaint, I did say for complete transparency, because on the phone the person said, I'll take a look at it. So I knew that they would be looking at the complaint. I said, for complete transparency, I'm going to send the same complaint to the board. And so I sent it to the chairperson and addressed the board as well. So they could discuss it at the next meeting. So, like I said, the person said that I would get a referral and a phone call from the dental hospital. Now, it appears, I don't know because I don't work there, I'm not inside there, that when the person realised or read the complaint and realised it was about them, the service stopped. So I did not get a doctor's call or referral down to the dental hospital, and then I was forced to spend $500 of my own money to go into a private dentist and get the filling done because the nerve was about to be exposed and all of that sort of stuff. But I bring that up because I have been fortunate enough to sit on a lot of the community organisations around our community's boards and committees, from Black to the Land Council, Crew Radio, and the Redfern All Blacks Junior Rugby League Football Club. And I've always been passionate about helping and uplifting my community and my home, which I say is Redfern. You know, it's tattooed on my arm. You know, I love this place and everybody that's from here. But when you're constantly raising issues and concerns about people's behaviours within these organisations, and I'm not the first to do so, and these are institutes of Aboriginal culture, you know, like the Aboriginal Medical Service, the Aboriginal Children's Service, like the Legal Service. These are institutes that were with people that came before us fought very hard and tirelessly for. And people are now in these positions of power that they take for granted, and they think that they can just disrespect the people that they're meant to be actually serving. Like if you work for an ACO, an Aboriginal community controlled organisation, you were governed by a board who was selected by the community or a group of members that make up that membership. So you answer to us. So if you're not doing the right thing, I'm going to make sure that I follow my process and my rights to address the behaviour and address the concern or risk that I perceive that exists that is going to cause potential harm to others. And that was the last, like the camel on the straw back again. The straw on the camel's back, sorry. That I'd had enough with trying to fight with my own community for things to be different. It is tiresome to constantly be met with a brick wall every time we have a difference of opinion or want to make change. So moving to Melbourne is going to give me a brand new community and experience and head in a different direction. And I think, you know, like I said, I know that my voice is meant to be heard and I can make change. It hurts that my own community doesn't want to hear it or be part of it. So I know for my own energy and healing and journey that I need to leave here. Because also on top of that, either consciously or subconsciously, I made this city my playground. And, you know, touching on the body keeps the score, it's like when the conscious is aware of a certain place or location because abuse took place there or a certain person is there, the way that I'm triggered, it's like I'm always in survival mode in Sydney. And I've been able to identify that because I travel to home to Moree, but in the past couple of years in my international travel, that I am amazing, I feel amazing, and I'm able to be whoever I want and feel the way that I do when I'm overseas. And I get comments and messages from people who follow my Instagram or on my Facebook saying how happy you look. I love watching your journey and where you go and your trip and stuff. I forget where that train of thought was going.
No, but it's funny you say that, bro, because it's, I guess when I reached out to you to do the podcast, you were overseas, and it was, I started the conversation around that. Was, are you going to get back to your running way? You know, like, so I know that people look and they listen, and there are people that I am making a difference in their lives. So, I just think the move is going to be great. You know, there are national organisations down there that work in the child protection space. SNAKE, which is the National Voice for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Children and Young People. I don't know if that's the correct title, but they work in that space. and I admire the work that they do because of the reach that they have.
Yeah.
Working in child protection, it is a state and territory based institute or like department.
Yeah.
Where I feel like, and I know that it's a question that you ask at the end, and it's the only question that you ask about what legacy do I want to leave, or memory that I want to leave, and it is, I would like to be a part of the discussion or panels or committees that sees child protection taken from the state or territories to a federally funded and run operation. I know that's a big thing to ask, but when you're talking about safeguarding the safety of children, the sharing of information across state borders and territory borders is very difficult, and I know that from working in the industry the last 6 years. The other part is that we know that the child protection system is a broken system, particularly here in New South Wales. A couple of the jobs that I've applied for in Melbourne within the government sector, within child protection, I can already see the vast differences and improvements that they are ahead of the state of New South Wales.
Yeah.
You know, so the legacy I would like to leave, or the memory that I want to leave on people, is that I was unauthentically me, unapologetically me, but I was able to make a difference within the child protection space that will be I will be remembered for. You know, like I mentioned, I was able to name the Aboriginal team within the child wellbeing. That's part of that.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to make legislative change, policy change, that ensures that children that go into the out-of-home care system don't experience the experiences that I have or went through.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the answer there, my brother.
Yeah, all the best.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All good, bruh. How do you feel, bruh?
Good.
Yeah?
I mean, I don't know. It's just the perfectionist within me, you know, like I
happens, bruh.
try to think of making sure that you say